Hello, how are you? This is Sashiko live streaming, which I am doing on Instagram in Japanese. Here, I would like to do it in English here on YouTube. Since English is not my first language, it might be a little difficult for me to stitch and talk simultaneously, but I will talk about why I'm doing Sashiko while I make Sashiko stitching. Any kind of questions are welcome. I will try my best to answer that. So let's start. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna just write down the comments here so everybody can understand what's going on. My name is Atsushi. I do Sashiko for life, I guess. I mean, I am a Sashiko artist. I make a lot of Sashiko stuff, and I do have a workshop. Hello. Just a second. I'm gonna just write down the comments. Yeah, this is Sashiko live. I will talk about why I do Sashiko and while I stitch. I make stitches. I did this morning in the Instagram, but I just want to do it here in English. I think it was a long live in this morning in Japanese. Many people were wondering what I was talking about. So I will talk about why I'm doing Sashiko while I make Sashiko stitching. You can interrupt me by asking questions for Sashiko if you want. So has been a long time since I was online here, so please feel free to ask any questions. All right. Just a second. I might be a little nervous. So for those who know me over website or Instagram, you might be surprised at how how young I am. Kind of sometimes people sometimes get confused when I teach Sashiko workshop because they expect me to be a little older. I am 34, I guess, or 5. And I sometimes say I have like 30 years of experience, but in reality, I do not have 30 years of experience. I was born in Sashiko family, so I was doing Sashiko ever since I was born. Um, so it's kind of fair for me to say that I was with Sashiko for last 30 years. And I was born in Sashiko family as a firstborn child. In Japan, firstborn child as a male means it's a pretty good fate that the firstborn child has to take care of the family, either business or family registry. Like the firstborn child is expected to be responsible for the family. So I was also, thank you. Um, oh my. So when I was born, many people thought that I would take care of the Sashiko business in Japan, which my family was running. So my father was the president until 2013, which he passed away unexpectedly. So that's the reason I do Sashiko. Well, I can do Sashiko. That's the reason I can do Sashiko. It doesn't mean that you know, that doesn't mean that I do Sashiko right now, right? Like you don't have to actually follow the path which somebody decided. I did not like it when I did not like Sashiko at all when I was a little kid. You know, not many boys would like this needlework, especially if your parents or family or anybody force you to do something. It's very natural that the kid would hate it. So I really didn't like it. I probably hated it. Although there was needle around, there was thread around me. I saw the Sashiko fabric, Sashiko stuff every single day. I actually, the more I saw those things, I really didn't like that. Ah, so that's one of the reasons I came to the U.S. to study. Since my father was kind of afraid of the flight, he couldn't fly with airplane. I thought, well, you know, if I got off from the if I decided to go to US, which is overseas, he has to fly like 8 hours at least to go to the West Coast, and well, that would probably the best idea to avoid my fate. So I did. I studied hard, and I came to US after the high school, and I studied finance and business. I got a job in Japan, pretty good job in Tokyo. Then I was living happily. Well, not happily, but I was okay. And I had a life without Sashiko for that. But in 2010, or maybe no, 2009, no, I'm sorry, 2008, my father called me that he would need my help to re-establish the business, to restructure. My family business was not doing a good job, and he needed my help to make Sashiko business somewhat profitable so that the company and staff could survive. We had about 12 employees back then, and my whole family was depending on that business. So if the fam, if that business go bad, I mean out of business, everybody, like including my family, like about 16 people would have been affected. It was possible for me to say no to go back to the family business, but my brother was still in college. My mom, my father were all both like 50 something, quite young, like 10 years to go to the retirement age. After all, I had like 10 people who raised me in this Sashiko family business, facing to the difficult business. So it was difficult choice. It was really difficult choice for me, but I decided to go back to the family business. The family the family business is called Sashiko. You may know me from that because I was pretty aggressive. I was not aggressive. I was pretty passionate to introduce Sashiko to the outside of the family. I mean, outside of Japan, which lead me to travel. But Sashiko is not a good business. I'm sorry, like I'm talking about business a lot with Sashiko, but I have to explain why I'm doing Sashiko right now. It is very necessary to explain why I'm doing Sashiko. I mean, it's like a prelude of my Sashiko history. Please stop me if you have any questions, okay? So, when I came back, I just realized that Sashiko is not gonna be a good business. Do you know why? Because Sashiko doesn't really follow the principle of good, profitable manufacturing business. There's no such a thing as a sample line. There's no such a thing as scale merit. So usually in the manufacturing business, the more you make, the more the company make a product, the more numbers of product the company makes, the more profit the company should make. In fact, the cost of production should be lower if the company makes more products. It is more costly to make 10 products rather than 10,000 products. That's how we got into this mass production society. Since it is cheaper to make more product, more numbers of product, they make like ten thousands and 100,000s of products, and then we can get like a cheaper price for that. However, Sashiko doesn't really apply that logic. The more you make, the more cost it takes, and you know, after all, we cannot make more than like 100 of tablecloth or cushion covers. It's all hand stitching. No matter how skilled the artisan is, there's a limit. There's a limitation how fast they can stitch. And we didn't have that many artisans. We had about 20 of those. So I just learned that the Sashiko will not be a good business. So I kind of tried to soft land the business. If nobody was kind of wanting to have this business over, I thought it's my responsibility to not to make it bankrupt, which my father was about to bankrupt, but I understood that the business was still viable, doable, if we cut all the expenses and started online shop, which I started in 2010, and oversee, like introducing that to the US and Australia, Europe. But I didn't have any good hope. I didn't have any. I didn't have hope in Sashiko in terms of business. I really didn't see the bright future with that. It's kind of sad for like I was 20, like late 20s, 26, 27, 28 back then, and my goal was to kind of finish the business, tidy up the business so that nobody will be negatively affected. So I was kind of thinking, is my life okay to be like that? Well, one of the biggest reasons I went back to the family business was for my brother who was still in college. And in 2010, he got a permission to graduate in 2011 March. So I started really thinking about my life. Is this okay to stick with Sashiko? Although I realized my responsibility is to soft landing the Sashiko business, I thought I might be able to, I could do something else as a side business or side thing to focus on my career. It's kind of sad to realize myself that I don't have anything at the age of 40 or 30 after soft landing the business, I mean closing the business without any issues. So I started thinking to give up Sashiko, pretty much give up. By the way, my family business didn't allow me to do this kind of live streaming. My family, including relatives, focus on saving Sashiko by hiding it, by making it secret. So I needed to get a permission every time I go outside of Japan to make a workshop. That's why I didn't do any workshop in Japan before 2014, I mean 15. And only place I was allowed to do the workshop outside of Japan was in Netherlands. The reason is only because the owner of that gallery who hosted me became a good friend of the stockholders of the company. So that was like a exception. Anyway, so I was not allowed to teach. I was not allowed to show you the technique. So this YouTube channel cannot exist if I was still working for that family business. Anyway, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. This is the story to build up why I'm not giving up Sashika. So I hope こっちでもライブしてます。でも夜だぞ。大丈夫ですか？今英語です。I'm sorry, this is the version in English. Just a second, I'm gonna just take a little tea. So, how much did I say? Where did I stop? So yeah, I was about to close the business. I was trying to say bye, not as bye, but I was trying to put Sashiko aside in my life. And well, my family business was kind of viable when after 3 years of my working there. So I started working in my family business in 2008, and in 2011, the company was kind of doable. I mean, at least it was not making a lot of loss. Not a lot of profit, but loss. インフルエンザ大丈夫？ Then, like, I really thought I should quit. I mean, for the career, I wanted to be famous. Well, not a famous, but I wanted to have some life, working for some good feedback. You know, it's understandable for the 20 years. I mean, about 30 years old guy who wanted to have a family. Then, when I was about to tell that to the company and decided to leave the company, earthquake happened in Japan. Big earthquake in northern part of Japan. It was horrified to see those big tsunami coming to the ocean coast of northern part of Japan, which wiped everything away on live. You just could see that on TV that everything was happening in real time. And after the huge disaster, I'm kind of not a stupid. I'm pretty simple enough to jump on that problems. I wanted to go to the northern part of Japan, but one of my friends stopped me. Like, you shouldn't go there because you're not strong enough. That's very true. not that outdoor person. I'm not that like strong. So I didn't go right away though. I didn't go like the next day it happened. I waited until those like the Japanese Jietai self-defense army went there to help them. After those like first step of recovery, uh, I waited until the first step of recovery completed. I kept sending those monies and some items to help those people, but I kept wondering what can I do? What can I do for those people who survived tsunami and suffering so much? And around June, like 3 months after the earthquake, I got an email from one group of people saying they are looking for the Sashiko thread, which they can use in they plan to use in that northern part of Japan where tsunami hit. And I started talking to them like, what are you doing? What are you doing there using Sashiko thread? And they said, well, we're trying to build the Sashiko project to help elderly people in those evacuation center. That clicked my head, not a head. That caught my attention, and I just jumped on that and offered the help. Like, don't worry about Sashiko thread. Just order whatever you want, and we will deliver it to them. So, if there's any help we could do as the Sashiko professional, we, at least I, were very much willing to help. And that's how I got know of the Atsushi Sashiko project. You can kind of Google that. You can Google Atsushi Sashiko. I can just type the information later on. But then I just kept sending those materials, fabric, thread. At the same time, they were not a group of people who started Sashiko for hobby. They wanted to make a business or community business where they can get somewhat life supporting activities. Their concept was very good, and I really agree with them. Their concept was let's send the fishing rod, not only the fish. So many people send them fish, so-called items, or water, food, blankets. Those like necessary items were delivered right after the earthquake by many Japanese people, and of course, people from U.S., people from Taiwan, Asia, like many people helped us. Europe, of course, but after 3 months or so, those items were kind of not satisfying them, but it was well enough, good enough to sustain their life. Of course, it's not better, it's not good enough, but that's what the people in the project thought. And fish is great. Thank you so much for delivering and giving us a fish. But what we really survivor need is the way to catch the fish. So then we decided to send the fishing rod, which means how to make those money or income. I learned that a little bit after I started helping the project, but after tsunami, those survivors, young people could do something. They had a job to do. There are a lot of things to clean up. There are tons of list of things to do, like distributing the supplies, maintaining the public bath, cleaning the debris, and also actually older male could do this similar thing, but elderly women didn't have anything to do. They couldn't do anything. They had to sit down. They couldn't move that, you know, quickly. So what they had was just a space of, this much in front of them, just sitting down every single day, blaming on themselves, or wondering themselves why they survived. So it is easy to imagine that those people get depressed. The beautiful thing about Sashiko is that what you need is just thimble, needle, thread, and fabric. That's it. You don't need any machine, no electricity, nothing. Just you have to have the needle and thread, fabric with patterns on it. So we started that project to help those moms and grandmas who couldn't they couldn't offer their manpower to the community or the other people. But at the same time, doing sashiko as a hobby is not that difficult. But doing sashiko as a business is very, very difficult. It's a completely different story. You have to, it's all handmade. It is very difficult to do the business to make a standard. So I saw that it was very difficult and the project was not going as they wished. So I asked my father to give me the leave permission. I mean, of course I'm paid, but leave permission for 2 months, and I just jump into the Atsushi town for 2 months as the kind of advisor to make Sashiko project viable, doable. And then I learned a lot. I really learned a lot of things there. And they thanked me a lot. They thanked me how I was keeping this Sashiko culture in form of some technique or some skill, know-how to implement the new project so they could get it work. There were about like 120 members, 150 members possibly back then to join that group, and they all came to me and thanked me for what I did. And I started thinking, this is something I probably should do. I'm the only one probably who was facing to the sashiko business back in Japan, how to make it viable, how to make profit out of it. And my conclusion was not to keep the sashiko business because it's not profitable at all. But what if I give up sashiko? Who else wouldn't give up? I mean, what's gonna happen to this? I just thought, like, what if I give up? Like, what's gonna happen to this culture? I mean, I'm not the only one who is doing sashiko, but I am a good candidate to pass down this culture to the next generation. You know why? Because I am Japanese who can understand the Japanese culture, custom, feeling, problematic characteristic, personalities, custom, everything. Like, I'm really 100% Japanese. I'm probably more than Japanese than the others. Doesn't make sense that, but and my English is not that great, but I can communicate to the others in English. I can do sashiko, thanks to my hateful childhood. And I know how to make sashiko business. I mean, I know it is difficult, but I know the process. And I started thinking, well, probably this sashiko and handcrafting is something we we can appreciate in 10 years and 20 years and 100 years from now. And some of the kids or grandkids might appreciate what I do as those people in the northern part of Japan appreciate it. And I started feeling like all of a sudden Sashiko as the precious culture that we like to keep going. And I started learning what is Sashiko rather than what is or how to make a profit with the Sashiko business. Before that, before 2011, Sashiko was just a tool to make a company profitable. But after 2011, Sashiko became a culture that I would like to protect. I would like to pass it down to the next generation. And it became my mission. After that, after my realization, I started enjoying Sashiko more. And I started respecting the other Sashiko people and other cultures as well. And briefly, that is why I'm doing Sashiko right now. But at the same time, in 2013, at the end of 2013, my father passed away unexpectedly, and there was a little bit of family disgusting drama. And my mother and I had to leave the company after some disagreement. I can talk about it for a long time, but this disagreement was pretty much about that they prohibited the new president. One of my relatives decided to not to have any online store, and they also banned, not a ban, but prohibited me to do the international sales or anything related to the overseas. I guess they were not a. I would say that they feared somebody imitating Sashiko and take over their business. It is a risk by doing the workshop online or by having YouTube channel. Anybody can that anybody can do this, and at the same time, it's not protected by any copyrights or everybody can do anything about it. So in terms of business, introducing or disclosing those information techniques is probably might not be the best idea, but at the same time I do not believe that people can protect one culture by keeping it secret, which probably that's what my relatives are doing right now. But that's not the way it's supposed to be in this world, internet world. If you want to protect something, you have to kind of make it public. There's a big difference between me and them, or between my mother and I and them. We don't care about who pass it down. I mean, who preserves Sashiko. It doesn't have to me. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be my mother. Sashiko is not something we own. I don't own that. My mother doesn't own that. We use Sashiko as a technique to express ourselves. So it doesn't matter who keep this culture. It can be anybody from Japan. It can be anybody who is watching this video right now. Anybody who learned technique from me or anybody who learned technique from anything, either book or article, whatever. But my goal is to keep this handcrafting culture so people will appreciate and enjoy the Sashiko and appreciating the fabric and respect this fabric what we have cultivated for a long time, instead of you making a lot of fabric materials like clothes, pants, and throwing them away into the trash. And instead of that, I just want to leave a little bit of effort or impact to those cycle by explaining what Sashiko was. And it doesn't matter if I make money or not, because if I don't, I feel sorry for that, but it's okay. again, it doesn't matter who keep this culture. It, my concern is if this culture will be preserved or will be practiced in 100 years later, 200 years old, 200 of years later. Doesn't have to be called sashiko or borrowed. It doesn't matter. But I just want to leave whatever I can so that anybody from anywhere in the world can try to enjoy it more. So that is why I'm doing sashiko. That is why I'm teaching. Well, at the same time, I have to, I have to live too. I have to pay bills and I have to pay, those things. So I charge some money when I do the workshop, and when I sell sashiko thread, I of course have like little margin. Those are kind of basic things, but I decided to not to hide anything for the profit. I decided to disclose as much as I can, so this culture will be ongoing forever and forever. I hope it makes sense. I talked a lot. How is it going? How is everybody? It might not be fun here because I'm just talking a lot, and I can do better job in Japanese. I'm sorry. I hope this makes sense to you. Yeah, I wish I should practice English more. Thank you, thank you. Sorry, I need. But I kind of realized myself that I used to hate my fate to be born in the Sashiko family as a man, which doesn't make a lot of money. I wish I could be a son of Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, like anybody. Like that don't have to be a billionaire, like a little bit richer family, or like reasonable actually. Like at least for example, my family has another aspect of sword fighting. My brother got into that aspect. That's cool, right? Like my brother is a teacher of sword fighting, kendo. But since I was the firstborn child, I didn't have a choice to choose, and of course, my brother didn't have a choice to choose. But I really didn't like my fate until recently. But now I just how privileged I am. Everything is coincidence. Everything is coincidence. I didn't plan to study English. I hated English. Trust me, I really hated English. But it helped. The hatred to the Sashiko led me to study English, and now I am a good candidate to do my mission, that I can do the universal language English and Japanese, and I can do actually Sashiko stitching. And I know how messed up the Japanese culture is too. Like mottainai, too good to waste, or and I can read Japanese, so I can go through the documents, which great ancestor didn't leave much. But yeah, thank you so much for the old comments. Yeah, Sashiko means to me in very different way to the others. It's not hobby to me. Well, I enjoy doing that, but it's not like hobby. One stitch, every stitch has a meaning. And to preserving hand sewing and other crafts. Yes, and this is not only about Sashiko. I happen to be doing Sashiko, but has a different, like anything, like quilting. Hand quilting is the same idea. Um, I'm not really familiar with American or other cultures, but and I guess the viewer of this video probably knows about my stance for Sashiko stitching, but there's no rules. There's no rules or regulation limitation to Sashiko. In my understanding, at least my Sashiko, the Sashiko I teach, there's no rule. Like you can do whatever you want. おやすみなさい. You can do whatever you want. Some books say that you shouldn't do it. Some articles say you should do that. It is fine. That's their perspective. That's their understanding of Sashiko. And it is up to you to follow those rules or not. But Sashiko was too ordinary for Japanese. It was very ordinary, common things to do for Japanese people back in 18th century, 17th century. So as long as you are stitching to either mend, repair, decorate, strengthen the fabric, I would call it Sashiko. And there's no such a thing as good Sashiko or bad Sashiko. Of course, there's a beautiful Sashiko, not beautiful Sashiko, and I teach how to make beautiful Sashikos. But there's no such a thing as bad Sashiko or wrong Sashiko. Every Sashiko has a good perspective, and that's everything. Every Sashiko everybody makes has meaning on it. So simply speaking, the Sashiko is not a result. Sashiko is a process of making stitches with thinking about someone, upcycling the fabric. So right now, this is the order from my friend who fight for one illness. So I'm just making the stitching to wish that he would get better sooner. I think when you do Sashiko, like it's pretty similar. You think of somebody, or you can of course think of yourself too, and make stitches. When you make stitches, we get into those meditation status. Like your brain might be empty, but when your head is empty, you care somebody who you really, really love. And I think the Sashiko is a process of loving somebody by stitching. I mean, not loving, I'm sorry, caring somebody. This slow stitching is a process of caring somebody. And I kind of like that culture. I want to preserve that. I hope I am fine now. I am fine, I think. Did I say that I'm not fine? I'm sorry, I kind of missed what I said. I missed what I said. I lost what I said. Did I say that I'm not fine? Well, I'm not fine much, but I mean, you're right, I'm not really fine. Just kidding. I'm okay. I'm just yeah. Yeah. Like last year before I stood live streaming, I used to watch some TV and made Sashiko stitching, so it's kind of it's not fair for me to say that you make stitches with thinking of somebody, but I think it is, like whenever you make stitches, you kind of think of someone, interestingly. I am not, well, for that matter, thank you. So it is about what I said about my family. Well, thank you so much for asking. So my mother and I had to leave the company, family business in 2013, the beginning of 2014. and nothing has been changed. I mean, we could bring it to the court or legal dispute to fight for their unlawful things, unlawful action or whatever. But I, so I'm not working for that company. I'm not working for my family business anymore. I'm doing this with my mother and myself. But that's a kind of good thing. I take it positively a bit. The reason is that I don't have any regulation anymore. My family business had a lot of kind of regulation not a rules, but the regulations. I couldn't do the workshop outside of Japan. I couldn't do workshop period. I couldn't do it in Japan either. I had to get a permission for everything. My mother couldn't make whatever she wanted to make. So after my mother and I left the company, my mom is, my mom is a bird outside of the cage, and her world is just the world. So she's flying all over, and I think that was a good thing for my mom. So her work, her Sashiko art is incredible. It tells like a lot of joy from the work. So I'm not working for the family business, and since I made it a little bit profitable, I think it's okay for them to take over it. But I think at some point, without understanding the core of Sashiko, it's not gonna go well. So I'm kind of not in position of arguing with them. So I right now I'm like I enjoy the process of Sashiko and how to preserve it with my understanding, and my mom is doing something outside of the anybody's understanding. Yes, Coco-san is right. It is much much better for us to do whatever we want. So this channel, Sashi.co channel is my mom's account too. We have no regulation, and this is our skill to have. So that's why I did a workshop in New York. My mom is hosting a new workshop if you plan to visit Japan, although she doesn't speak English at all. That's possibly doable. And my mother's work is I I um, I can't even. But her work is, I believe, her work is something that like museums should have. So that's something only she can do. There are a lot of Sashiko artists in Japan too, but I don't know if there's a lot of Boro artists. My mom makes a Boro out of Boro. She washes those Boro like rag of Japanese vintage fabric. If you wash those vintage fabric, you have to kind of expect that at least 10%, sometimes 50, more than 50% of the Boro washes away to the drain. So you lose fabric because they're so old and so muddy and dusty. You simply lose that. That's really sad. Mm-hmm. But my mom washes it, and well, I don't want to call my mom. So Keiko washed those fabric, and Keiko makes the fabric out of it. So we have that online. And just they're beautiful. I'll stop talking and just do stitching more. So little break. Ask me any questions if you have. That will teach in the New York, so I hope that would help somebody who are really trying to learn Sashiko. I wouldn't say the free tutorials on this YouTube is not good enough, but at the same time, it is sometimes better to have individual attention. So on the online workshop, I try to pay attention to everybody who is in the group. So I will check your hand, the posture, how to hold needle and thimble and move and how to make stitches. So yeah, that's like an extra attention besides this workshop. I mean, besides the tutorials online. Ha ha ha. No. Well, please come to the website. Sure, sure. Well, I can show you some if you want to. I can have something. I have something here. Esther, did I say something funny? Well, again, I lost what I said. I'll just show you something. If I could find. Nope. Okay, just one borrow my mother made. Like this, do you see that? It's not stinky at all. It's not really, it's not dirty, it's not stinky. My mother Keiko washed it several times, so it lost a lot of fabric. But sometimes after after minimizing the damage, we make patchworking and putting it like a borrow, and then it's a good quality for anything. You can, well, there was a request to make a pillowcase with that, but nope. It's too thick and too fragile to the friction. But it can be not a table mat, but like you can put it under the vase, like a flower vase. So that's something we do. On top of Sashiko. Okay, yep. That was a big, big, big breath. I understand that. But I don't want you to misunderstand though. I do respect everybody who do Sashiko right now. Like a lot. There are a lot of people who introduce Sashiko before I do so, and they have owned their interpretation and understanding, and I am no position to criticize or say that their Sashiko is wrong. Please do not please do not misunderstand that. I respect everybody who is trying to teach Sashiko and share Sashiko. So instead of thinking what is right or wrong, what is good or bad, I just want you to, like at least the people who watch this video, to understand that Sashiko is something we enjoy instead of compete. Anyway, I will finish this video after finishing this smudge thread. If you have any questions, please let me know. Can I ask where you guys are watching from? I mean, I cannot do Sashiko stitching live streaming at night in the US time because 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock in US Eastern time is the time I can be online. The rest of the time is I'm a stay-at-home dad. I mean, not a stay-at-home, I'm a homemaker, so I have to take care of the family first. So I don't think not many people from US can watch this live because it's not the best time to be on computer. But I will try to do everything I can to introduce. So if you have any request, please let me know. I'll do my best to introduce some of the techniques, some of the skills, some of the video, or some of the answers. Maybe a little bit with the fee, because if it takes too much time, I need some compensation too. So I might just charge that. But I will try to do, as I said, I want to try to make Sashikos available as many people as possible. So I'll keep updating all those free tutorials. And we gotta find some supporters. Like, not as supporters, how do you say those? Sponsors. There we go. That's my goal. Find some sponsors and I do everything for free. No, we taught. This is the answer for the Esther. Esther. I taught. We taught them how to do that, and we made a patterns for them. That was something we could do as the company. We pre-printed all the patterns for them. Right now, they learned after 6 years. They learn and they can do it by themselves. But pretty much we advised and told them how to do that. The good thing about them is though, but Japanese, like most of the Japanese ladies who are more than 50 years old, 60 years old, they know how to use needle. Like that was a requirement in school, I guess. So many people knew how to use the needles. So that was very easy for us to teach. It didn't require like a whole process of needlework. But Sashiko requires some techniques and patterns. Those specific things I was there for 2 months and I visited several times and I was there. I was living in the my wife got freaked out back then, but it happens. I was there while the earthquake was ongoing too. Yeah, I had some earthquake too. I experienced that over there too. And that project is now so big. I mean, they're still struggling. They're having a difficulties to be viable as a business. But the actual business itself, the scale of business is much, much bigger now. So they even went to France to teach Sashiko. I wish I could go there too. And they're doing good. They're making a lot of nice bags, jackets. In Japan, the old Tsuchi project, so the Sashiko in Old Tsuchi are having an exhibition in March and May, and my mother's Keiko's work will be displayed too. So if you happen to be in Japan during those time, I am happy to share those information too. So this was just Sashiko stitching while I was talking about why I'm doing Sashiko right now. And this video talked about I talked about almost 50 or 60% of the topic I covered in Instagram this morning. So I'm just doing everything as I did this morning in Japanese. It was much harder to do it in English, but I hope this will make it fair. I want you to know everything too. So it's so hard. Ah, oops. That was bad. Don't stop your iPhone camera. How long is the thread in your needle? How long is the thread? This much left? How long should I use? Well, the ideal length of Sashiko thread when you make like a straight line is about the length from your arm, two arms combined together from your, oops, how can I say, you're like, the length of your hand, right? Twice of that is kind of known as the best length for the thread. If you're asking the length of needle, it is 51.5 millimeters. Many people ask me this question, so I kind of memorize it. 51.5 millimeters. But again, thread, it doesn't have to be like a specific length. It can be a long, but if it's too long, if it's too small, it is troublesome to thread the needle every time, and it's gonna be a waste of thread. And if it's too long, there's a lot of the bigger chance to angle the thread on the way, which end up with wasting thread. So the key to enjoy Sashiko is trying to be stingy. Trying to be stingy, like trying to save some thread. What is the easiest way to do that? Like, this is kind of, you have to stitch anyway so much. So like, think about the way to be lazy. This much left. Okay, a few more lines and I'll be off. I hope I answered the question. Katai. Yeah, like it's a lot longer than regular embroidery, I guess. because you don't make like one stitch by one stitch like this. So longer thread is okay. If it's too short, hey, well, the short is not bad at all, but I don't like threading the needle much. I'm lazy, so I tend to have longer than even two arm lengths. I'm very lazy. If you see me, you'll learn that, but I'm super lazy. So if I have to do extra work, I'll be complaining so much. So the beauty of this my Sashiko is how to cut all the work I don't have to do. So the thread doesn't tangle or fry away from. It does. Um, the thread does tangle or fry from the going, and whenever you make stitching, it does get affected by doing that. So that's why I'm saying ideal length is about two arm size, two arm length. As long as it's two arm lengths or shorter, it doesn't get much frayed. For the tangled problem, you have to be very careful. But as long as you use our Sashiko thread, um, two arms length will not fray the thread significantly. I don't know about the other Sashiko thread, but so yes, like if you make a lot of this time I had like probably three or four arm lengths thread, then it's getting a little bit fray at the edge. So this thread is not perfect. It is ideal, but not the perfect. So you can. I don't want you to do the like 10-meter thread together for one time. 10-meter might be too much. Alright, I will finish soon. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. My mouth is not even moving anymore since I don't really speak English like this much. Yeah, don't do 10-meter. I've done that. Just don't do it. Alright, thank you so much for watching. About 3 hours from this morning, and I did about 2 hours of live streaming in this morning, and this is about 1 hour, I guess. Even less, I don't know. But this is the result. It's not even done yet, but not bad. The beauty, the fun part of Sashiko is that it comes up. It comes out. I can see the result. Hello. And this will be a jeans. This is the jeans from my friends. So I hope it's gonna look good. Thank you so much. Alright. Have a good day. Have a good week. And I'm not gonna be on YouTube as often as the Instagram. And on the Instagram, I only speak in Japanese, but I'll try to be online as much as possible. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon later. Bye bye.